Hello, hello, everybody. Happy Friday to you. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to welcome you to the Breakthrough Show. This season is called Beyond the Breakthrough because while the world often celebrates the moment that something changes, we don't always pause to explore the deeper work that makes those moments possible. Sometimes that work looks like courage. Sometimes it looks like healing. And sometimes it looks like someone choosing to tell a story that the world has been too comfortable ignoring. Our guest today is someone who has dedicated her life and her artistry to exactly that kind of storytelling. Through film, spoken word, and powerful cultural conversation, she has created spaces for reflection, restoration, and truth, inviting people to challenge long held narratives about beauty, identity, and worth. Her work reminds us that transformation doesn't just happen in the spotlight. It happens in the quiet moments where we begin to see ourselves and each other differently. She's a filmmaker, a visionary, an advocate, and the creative force, not a better word than that here, behind The Color of Beautiful, a movement that is helping people to reclaim their stories and redefine what beauty truly means to them. So please welcome to the Breakthrough Show, Dr. Karen Moore. Hello, Karen. I'm so glad you're here today.
Hello, thank you for having me. You were talking, I was like, who is she talking about? Let me go find this woman. I'm in the wrong place.
See, I love that though, that sometimes, we have, because it happens to me too, where somebody will be telling me about myself and
Yes,
we're so caught up. And I think you and I are similar in that we're so passionate about what we do that
yes.
sometimes we're not taking ourselves out of it to go, wow, look at all I do accomplish.
Right, right. And that was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, who is that? I want to meet her. I want to
Can
meet
you
her.
introduce me to her? Who is
Who is she?
I love it.
That
Well,
is
I'm so
wonderful. Thank
glad
you.
that yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that we finally get to do this because I met you in the Global Business Plaza,
Yeah.
and our mutual friend Peggy MacArthur, who we kicked off the season this year with Merrick MacArthur on the on the Breakthrough Show.
Yes.
So we're getting the whole family, friends and
Right.
family in in this year.
Yes.
But I met you over in the plaza and I was so moved by not just the beauty of your spaces, but when you came in to chat with me, you just have this very calming nature about you that just made me want to hear what you had to say. And I think in a world where everybody's screaming at us to
Yes.
shove information down our throats, I was just like, this is so refreshing. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to know that you felt that way.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
goal.
So when it comes to your work, Karen, what is it that has led to, has there been anything about your work that has led to maybe sort of an understanding of what breakthroughs mean to you? Like, has your work been as much of an impact on your own life as it has been on other people?
Well, that's a really great question. I would say definitely that it has been. I think that when you can help people begin to see themselves differently,
Mm,
and you can help people begin to understand that just because your skin is darker doesn't mean that you should be any less valued or that you have any less worth. That it reminds you of how you got to the place where you were comfortable in your own skin, how I was got to be comfortable in my own skin, and that whole journey to that awakening. And it keeps reminding me of how I made the journey and how important it is for others to make that journey, and that breakthrough that happens when you say, you know what? I really am beautiful. I really am valuable. I really am worthy. And this is this is the kind of awakening that happens. I think awakening happens after breakthrough. You
Mm,
break through all the lies and the lies that you were told and made to believe about what beauty is. And so you break through all of that and you have this awakening that yes, I am beautiful, and that I have to start calling myself that and seeing myself that way. And that I remember the journey to get there. So I'm constantly reminded of when someone has that breakthrough and that awakening, I remember for myself what that was like.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said that there's the breakthrough and then there's the awakening, because I've heard so many people say that, that the breakthrough is where people change. But the truth is that the breakthrough or the awareness of something, that's just the first step. You still have to choose what you're going to do with that breakthrough you just experienced, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that people don't realize that. That's so powerful what you just said, because I don't think people always realize that you still have a choice to make. You
Mm,
still have work to do. There's something that you need to do to get to that next step. And just thinking, okay, I broke through and this is it. No, it's not it. Usually the breakthrough means there's a whole lot more work to do, a whole lot more work to do, because now you've got this breakthrough and you've got to embrace all these different things and do the work to make sure that you don't go backwards and have to do that breakthrough again.
right. Because there are all of those continued choices that you have to make. And even sometimes people have come on the show and we've talked about, I'll ask them, what's that one big breakthrough? And they're quick to point it out. But then during telling their story, we realize that there was a whole bunch of little breakthroughs along the way and all of these choices and things that they had to make. Have you found that true for your journey as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that we're always looking for the real big, you know, fireworks, breakthrough, and all of that. But there are little breakthroughs that happen, and we have to celebrate. We always talk about celebrating the small steps.
Mm,
We've got to celebrate the small breakthroughs that happen in our lives and understand that that celebration helps you get to the next one and the next one.
mm,
And then you actually have that, what we might consider that major, real clear breakthrough. I'm really through this now. But even those small steps, those small breakthroughs that help me get here, they need to be celebrated. And that it's a process, that word we all hate, that
right.
it's a process, and you've got to work the process to get through to where that major kind of breakthrough takes place.
Right, right. Before we go to a quick break and dive more into your story and how you got to the work that you're doing today, one of the topics that keeps coming up over and over recently is this idea of community and how important community might be on your journey, and also when you're going through, the rocking and crying in a corner parts of of our breakthroughs, to have that support. Has community been an important part of your journey and the breakthroughs you've experienced? Because I know that you've created, safe spaces for other people, but has that been just as important to you in what you've experienced?
Absolutely. I think it's critical for everyone to have a supportive community, people who will not let you stop,
Mm,
people who will encourage you when it is harder and it is tougher, and those people who will also say, well, what can I do to help? What do you need? What can I do to help to get you to the next level? And it takes a community to do that.
right.
It really takes community to do almost everything you need to do. You need community.
Right. Right. I want to dive a little bit more into that. Plus, we're going to talk about Dr. Karen's whole story. We're going to talk. We could be here for 25 hours. No, we're gonna try to rein it in for you guys. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Dr. Karen Moore. We'll be right back after this.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing. Healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to The Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I'm here today with the incredible Karen Moore. And so excited that we could finally do this and have longer of a conversation than like, oh, it's nice to meet you. Great to see your space.
Right.
To the next phase, like we do at some of these networking events that we are mutually a part of. So you are a filmmaker. You create amazing spaces for people and experiences to explore different things. How did you get to this point of where, like, is this something you always wanted to do, or what kind of has the journey been like for you?
I actually am a theater person.
Mm.
And so I've done a lot of theater. And when I started doing my work with colorism, I was asked to be on a panel, actually asked to facilitate a panel on colorism at African American Women in Cinema. And the founder, Tara Renee, said to me, do you know a short film about colorism, or you could make one? So, I'm the girl who said, okay, let's do that. Little did I know about what filmmaking really was, but I did. I decided that I was going to make this film, Who Told You You're Black Is Not Beautiful. So I got some women together and filmed, and I did all the filming and the editing. I did everything. And it was quite an experience. I learned a lot. So that by the time I got ready to do my next film, I had learned a lot. And so that kind of was the journey for Who Told You You're Black Is Not Beautiful. And as I've taken some different film workshops and things, one of the facilitators of the workshop said to me, I see this as an installation. Have you ever thought about doing an installation? I didn't even know what that meant. So she explained to me, you have these different kiosks where all the women are in a separate kiosk, and people come and they go to the kiosk and they listen to the story. And then you can have like a QR code or something where they can respond to what they heard and things like that. And I was like, that is an amazing idea.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, that is fantastic. But then I started thinking, that's going to cost a lot of money. Okay. I'm in Philadelphia, renting space,
Right.
kiosks, we're talking a lot of money here. So
Yeah.
then I thought about it. I said, well, I could actually do that online.
Mm.
So I started building, we're changing platforms now, but I started building the virtual film installation online so that each woman has a different space and people can come in and listen to the story and be able to have different ways of responding and reviewing and listening to the story. And so that's where we are now. We are set to launch the rebuild in April. And we've added some really great things to it because, this platform that we're on is going to be really amazing. So we've added some really great things to the installation. So we're really, really, really excited about relaunching the Who Told You You're Black Is Not Beautiful virtual installation.
I love it. I'm excited. Because I know the platform. And so
Yes.
I'm so excited about this. And because
on this platform. Yes.
I mean, I saw the other version of and it was amazing as it was, but I know you're going to do something amazing with it in the new platform. And so I'm excited to see that come to life. But very similar to what I was talking about how your energy came across to me when we first met. I think that what you're doing through a film and through an installation is another really great way to start having a conversation that isn't necessarily like this is what it is and this is what you have to believe and this is what like it's not threatening. It's like, here, come explore this and see what it means to you. And so I really appreciate that about what you're trying to do. And so what I wanted to ask you is, we're in this interesting space and time where we have a lot of these hot button topics like racism, like colorism. There's a lot of conversations coming up right now that maybe haven't been deeply addressed over the years. So has been your journey or your thoughts about broaching a conversation like this so that it is something where everybody can come to the table and have a discussion and maybe not feel attacked in some kind of way or scared to have the conversation? What are your thoughts about that, and applying it to what you're trying to do?
Well, I think conversation, let me say this, conversation is very important.
Mm.
There can be no healing without conversation.
Right.
And I think that where sometimes we get caught up is, like you said, we make decisions about who people are and what they may believe or whatever it is without having conversations. And so I think one of the important things is being able to come into a conversation and feel like you can say what you need to say or feel what you need to feel with all respect, and be respected at the same time. And so that means creating these spaces where women can come and feel that, okay, I've had certain experiences and I want to be able to talk about them and not be attacked or judged. And one of the things that we look at, especially with colorism, is that colorism not only affects darker skinned women, but lighter skinned women also have residual effects of colorism, because lighter skinned women have been teased and bullied. And, we can talk all day and all night about Black women in hair. So it's like, so, we get into these things about good hair, bad hair, and all this other stuff. But I think that the idea is being able to come together and say, okay, we've had these different issues historically. They've been issues in our community. And we have to be able to come together and talk about them and come together respectfully and honoring each woman's story, because every woman has the right to have her story honored without being attacked with, okay, this is my experience and I'm voicing my experience. It doesn't mean that every person is like that, or that I can't in the same time honor your story and what you have to say about your experience. And just because somebody may say, well, I was treated this way by a lighter skinned woman, or I was treated this way by a darker skinned woman, that has to be the be all and end all of who you are, and where we acknowledge that happened to you. But let's talk about how you felt about it and how maybe we need to approach differently. And also not make assumptions. I tell the story about the very beautiful, very fair Nicole that came to an event, and it was kind of that angst, and I said, she came in the room, I was like, okay, here we go.
Uh-oh.
Be light-skinned girl that's going to give me some grief, right? Sat down next to me, and she just took this. She said, I can't even believe I made it. So I said to her, take a deep breath, sis. It's okay. You're here. And it's okay. And we had a conversation, and she wasn't at all who I would determine she was going to be just because of the way she looked. I had already decided who she was just by the way that she looked. And so you got to start looking at that and how we are judging people based on our experiences and how they look. And we've got to have those conversations to say, no, we can't do that. And we've got to begin to just talk to people and see who they are and what
Yep.
it is. Because, yes, there are some people who are racist. There are people who are colorists. There are people
Yep.
who are all kinds of things. But we can't assume every encounter is that either. I say sometimes people just had a bad day.
Yep.
It's not. I mean, you do know racism when you see it, and you do know colorism when you see it. But then sometimes people just have a bad day, and they
Right.
strike out. And it's not that they're racist or they're colorists. They just had a bad day, and they were just lashing out.
Mm. My co-host Farhan and I have had a lot of conversations about this topic. In fact, we had a we had one of our episodes that was specifically about conversations around race and culture at the end of last year,
Mhm.
and he was talking about making an effort to discover. Even if someone says something that we feel our gut reaction is like, well, that was racist, like we are, that's our initial thing that we think. um he also has done a lot of work around having a conversation to find out what it is exactly that they believe and where did it come from. And
Mm,
that where did it come from is, I think, such a huge conversation and an important one as well,
yes.
because we have generational trauma that we are all bringing
Yes.
on
Yes.
based on things, right?
Right. That's it. Because I've even told people, I said, sometimes you even have to tell grandmom, with all due respect, we don't talk like that anymore.
Right.
We don't say darky anymore. We
Mm,
don't say light, bright, damn near white anymore. We don't do that anymore. So, we've got to educate even sometimes our elders and other people as to, because they had a certain experience too. And we have to honor that too.
right.
That, they came from many of our elders, and I'm an elder now, but many of our elders came from times where it was so much difference in how people related to one another and the things that people said, and that, our language has to change, and so we've got to be willing to call it out when we see it. But like you say too, find out where that came from, and
Mm,
understand that people, I think about, um, there was an episode, I can't remember which show it was, but it talked about how in the African American community, how we went from being Negro to being Black to being African American to being all these different names. And sometimes it takes a while for people to move from one language to another, because if all your
mm,
life you grew up using the word Negro, we don't use that anymore. But if that's how you grew up your whole entire life, you start talking to people in their 80s and 90s, and those are the terms that were used. We've got to have a little grace and say, okay, well, this is the word we're saying now.
right.
If you can kind of try to move to that word, and if they can't, we'll go with it.
Right.
We've got to show grace.
Yeah. I agree with that as well. I agree with that as well. And you were talking about people's experiences before too, and I jotted down that someone's experience that they have as they're sharing their experience, just because they're sharing their experience, that doesn't mean that it's their belief. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's just the experience they have. It doesn't mean they operate from that space and then that becomes, the foundation of whatever, however they behave going forward. But I think sometimes people will hear someone sharing their story about what they've experienced, and we jump so quickly as humans to being offended and taking it personally when we weren't even there.
Right. Right. That is so true. And I think that that's one of the things that I think is a challenge for us as humans,
Mm,
is to really truly learn to respond and not react.
mm,
And that takes a lot of introspection, takes a lot of practice, that I'm not going to just react. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to really, and maybe even ask questions, respectfully ask questions, so that I can understand, so that my response is not one of attack, but is one of understanding, and one of even encouragement in helping someone to move beyond the experience that negatively affected them.
Right.
Because and many times we have to understand too that that's not an overnight process. We think everything's overnight. It's just, we come, we have a conversation, everybody's better.
Yeah.
I love you, you love me.
Right.
The
That's
whole
it.
thing, like, it just happens, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It takes time. And many times it takes having more than one conversation. Many times we have to be willing to have more than one conversation and say, okay, so we talked about that. Well, let's dive into this a little deeper and see, what how that affected you, and how I can possibly even help you
Mm.
to possibly get to another space in that, and understand that you don't have to carry that anymore. But let's see how we can begin to let you release it.
Right. Right. I love that. I love that. Well, it was so funny because when you mentioned about hair. So where I grew up, we were in these little low income, apartments, and we were all very close together, right? And Miss Jennifer, that used to live a couple houses down, she used to sit on the porch and braid her girl's hair and put, the beads in and everything else. And I used to come and sit, and I would just be sitting there thinking the whole time, why can't I have beads in my hair and cute little braids? And this is so cute. Like, cause I had this flyaway, super fine blonde hair, straight, wouldn't hold a curl back then, like nothing. And
Yeah.
I was just like, I want somebody to do my hair like that. Like, and so it was interesting to me coming into adulthood and hearing stories about from Black women that didn't like their hair. And I'm like, what do you mean? I could not understand it at all. But then I understand a lot of, like, I've heard stories about, certain kids that couldn't graduate because their hair was a certain kind of way, or they couldn't get a job because they had an afro or something else. And I'm like, people are ridiculous. That's all. That's all
Yeah.
I could come up with. Okay. I just couldn't understand it. When as you were growing up, Karen, what was that experience like for you with your hair? And because I've never really gotten to ask this question before of like what was it really like?
Well, it was very interesting because my father did not want my mother straightening our hair.
Mm,
So, I mean, I had the big afro, and I think that what happens for women is, for Black women in particular, is that our hair was never celebrated outside of our community,
mm,
and it was seen it was seen as this, this is how Black you are. Okay, you have an accent
mm,
Black, and so this is just, if you want to get ahead, you've got to straighten your hair so that you look more European. So the straight hair and the straightening of the hair came with, I feel, this is my opinion, I feel came with beginning to denounce who we are and make it so that we don't appreciate the hair that we've been given. Because I remember, back in the day, where you could not go to an interview with braids or cornrows or any
mm,
kind of braids in your hair. It was considered unprofessional. So when I was starting to interview for jobs, we could not do that. My hair had to be straight because it was more, you were thought to be more acceptable if your hair was straight, because it was more acceptable as a kind of a European standard. Even though you may have had my complexion, it was still better for you to have straight hair because it was more accepted in corporate world. Because we just came through, now I think that a number of the states have adopted the Crown Act,
mm,
allowing now that employers can't discriminate against Black women because of their hair. So I think we're beginning to see more Black women with afros and natural hair and beautiful braids and locks and things like that. But there was a time when it was just, you just really did not wear your natural hair because it was just considered unprofessional, and you were just not going to get a job. you are not going to get a job.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's I appreciate you sharing all of that because so this is the interesting part of this. My grandmother owned a beauty salon and my mother was a hairdresser for a little while. And so I grew up sort of in like the industry, if you will. And so it's interesting to me like how we many women, regardless of the color of their skin, so many of us have a hair story. Like
Yeah,
it's wild to me. Like I never thought that that would be a thing that we would end up having conversations about.
about hair. Can you believe it?
Yeah, of
About
all the
hair.
things.
About hair. Yes, and
Yeah.
I think that because it's considered so much a part of our beauty,
Mm,
and it's considered, your hair is your crown, and it's so much a part of your beauty that women, like you say, all women go through this hair thing. Do we want to dye it? Do we want to curl it? Do we want to straighten it? What's going to make us look the prettiest? And so, we go through all of these different things because, once again, it's society telling us what beauty is.
mm,
And, for a lot of women, I think for a lot of, and particularly white women, blonde hair was the thing. You had to be
mm,
blonde hair and blue eyed. That was beauty.
yeah.
And so if so people are dyeing their hair because that's what society is telling us is beautiful. When brown hair is beautiful, red hair is beautiful. You know, I have a girlfriend who has naturally red hair. She's black, she's mixed. She has naturally red hair.
Wow.
And the first thing she said when she had her son, my godson, when he was born, I was in the delivery room. The first question she asked is his hair red? She did not want him to have red hair because she went through hell. And so her first question was not, does he have, two legs and two arms?
Is he okay?
Right? Is he okay? That was her first question? Is his hair red?
Yeah.
Because she did not want him to be teased and tormented the way she was for her red hair.
Right.
And I was like, he's a whole baby. Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
He's a
Well,
whole
good.
baby. He looks beautiful. Okay.
Yes. Yes. I
But
think we worry about that for our kids, that they
yeah,
don't go through whatever it is that what we went through. And I think that's where a lot of the conversation around race and culture comes into play also, is because we don't want our kids to go through whatever it is, or, that we went through as well. And I think taking the time to discover and look at your culture and where your ancestors come from, I think is a really important part of the conversation too, because it helps us to understand where some of these beliefs might have come from, and having that conversation. Even in my exploration, my mother's side of the family came from Sicily, and I'm practically clear, like you could see right through me in the like my so much of that side of my family has much darker skin than me, being from that part of the world, and then discovering like what all they went through when they came here to America 125 years ago, not that long ago,
right.
really. And what they went through and all of that. But it's helped me to really understand, like, oh, that's why my great grandfather spoke in that way, or in his case didn't speak. He was so soft spoken and so quiet all the
Mm.
time, but like maybe that's where some of the stuff came from. What is that? Have you been on that journey yourself of like exploring your culture and where your ancestors are from and all of those things? Like what has that been like for you, if any?
Yeah, it's been very interesting. I remember my mom telling me stories, and when you hear stories and you realize that your parents and your grandparents, the things that they did have to endure,
Mm,
and in a lot of ways, it kind of makes you appreciate some of the things that they tried to make sure that you didn't have to
Mm.
go through and endure. But I think that telling the stories are so important.
Yeah.
It's so important for us to know the stories. I remember my my mother telling me that her grandmother kidnapped her or something. Her grandmother kidnapped her from Florida and brought her to Philadelphia, and then it was the craziest story, but it made me realize some things about my mom and how she viewed certain things
Yeah.
because to her it was kidnapping. That her grandmother took her from Florida and brought her to Philadelphia. So, when you hear these stories and you begin to see certain things, like you say, about why your parents or your grandparents or even your aunts and uncles, some of the things that happen, because when you start to even explore that whole family dynamic, it can be very interesting, and you can begin to see some things and see, okay, so that's why this one does that or that one does that, and then how the whole family is can be affected by it, but then how we need to still we can honor our stories and our cultures, but also decide something different for ourselves.
Mm. Yeah. Very true. We get to, I mean, it goes back to the breakthrough. We then get to make a choice.
Yes.
Once we learn it, then we can decide what we want to
Right.
do with that information. I wanted to ask you too about maybe with your film, what has some of the conversation been like? What has some of the I imagine that some of the black women that have come through and taken part in the installation, what has it been like for them to go through the experience? Like I'm imagining it must be an experience in that it brings up a lot of things for them that
Mhm.
they can then explore after. Can you take us through like what some of that experience has been like for people?
Yes. One of the things I think, one of the women told me that it really changed her life, and she was able to actually reconnect with her sister because having gone through the installation, she realized some things because her sister is darker and she's lighter, and she was able to realize some things about what her sister may have experienced, as well as what connect with what she experienced in life. So I think it brings out a lot of things for women. One of the things that we do include in the installation too is a meditation room, because it can be traumatizing. When you listen to it and you start thinking about the things that you've been through, it can trigger, I should say triggering, maybe, well, trauma too, but it can trigger some things.
Yeah.
And so we have a meditation room where people can kind of just go and relax and hear some positive meditation, because there may be some triggers. And I think one of the other things, because I remember even when I started the work, my biological sister is light skinned. And I
Mm.
remember her saying to me, I had a theater piece that I was doing, and it was called Brown Skin Blues. And so my sister told me light skinned women have blues too. And I was like, since when? What kind of blues? What kind of blues you got? Okay. I don't
All
understand
like
what you're
okay,
talking
I have to tell you this really quick because this is the second time it's come up today. Okay, I don't know how this happens. But do you remember the movie Adventures in Babysitting? Do you remember that movie from the 80s? It's
about.
this girl, she's a babysitter. They get in all kind. It's a very typical kind of over the top late 80s
Uh-huh.
movie, you know. But they go in the city and they're causing all this ruckus, and they end up busting. They're running from criminals. Okay, it's, I mean, I'm telling you, it's over the top. So they come in the back door, and it's this back door of like a blues club that's an all black club, and here's these little white kids coming in and so in order to get, like, they think that they're just going to walk right through, and the guy that's in the band, he said nobody leaves here without singing the blues. And so she starts singing this song about the blues that she had. It's the babysitting blues. That's what it is. And it just cracks me up that, I mean, what they must have experienced in that moment. It was very, anyway, I'm sorry. I had to interject with that.
babysitting blues. I have to find that.
I'm gonna send you the clip after
Please do.
this so you can have a laugh. You can have
But I
a
just
laugh.
like
So
it. I said to her, "What kind of blues you have?" I mean, really? But then she told me. She
yeah.
explained it to me, and she even did a piece for the production, and she called it "Too Dark to Be Light, Too Dark to Be White, Too Light to Be Black."
Mm,
And so she talked about, many times light skinned women aren't really accepted as being black, depending upon how light they are, or, they're not always accepted as black. So it was an interesting conversation that I had with her. And then she did this piece, Too Dark to Be White, Too Light to Be Black, and talked about one of the things that really annoys her is when people ask her, "What is she?" And she's like, "What do you mean, what am I? I'm black. What do you mean?" It takes her over the edge, What are you? Okay.
I don't know, a
Um,
giraffe. A giraffe is so funny to me.
yeah. So, but it's. I think that women come in and they get to listen to dark skinned women and light skinned women, and get to experience some of the prompts and affirmations that we
Mm,
have. And so they have this sense of, okay, I do remember that, or I have experienced it, and I have an opportunity to reflect on my experience. And then I can begin to see how I can heal, because the affirmations then come up, and I can accept that I am beautiful, I am valuable, I am worthy, and I don't have to stay with the narrative that was fed to me
mm,
so long ago.
yeah. Yeah. I love that you provide those spaces for people, not just to watch something, but to really participate in it, to really immerse themselves and ask, it's even with the film I made about friendship. For me, I didn't want people to just watch it and go like, "That's nice," and kind of, you
Exactly.
know, just move on. But really, we have an opportunity to make it a breakthrough moment and go, "How can I not only change my life, but by extension, make the world a better place by processing through sometimes some of these really hard conversations?"
Yes. And that was a big thing for me with my film, with all of my films, is conversation. I don't want
Mm,
people, like you say, just come in and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, colorism, okay, yeah." But we need to have a conversation. And that's very important to me, is conversation and reflection and transformation.
yeah. Mm, yeah. I know I asked you earlier on about community and how important that has been for you in your work and in your life. And I think sometimes one of the challenging things for me has been when it comes to having conversations like race, like colorism. Sometimes people feel like I can't, and I'll just speak for myself. There have been times that I have felt like I can't talk about this. I can't even process through, in talking about what it not just what it's been like for me, but what I've seen other people experience or whatever the case may be, because I'm not part of that community. And I've heard other people say straight out, you can't have a seat at the table to have any conversation about any of it because you're not part of the community. Do you have any thoughts about that, Karen?
I would say that I really think that we all have to be part of the conversation. I really do.
Mm,
Because, for one thing, it's about education. And I know that there are Black people now who are feeling like, we're tired of educating. We're tired of
mm,
trying to get people to understand and educate. But you have to educate, because if you don't tell people, you can't expect them to know.
mm,
I mean, you just can't. And I think that everybody has to be able to have a seat at the table and be able to understand what what is happening, and how they can be a part of making a change.
mm,
Because if you don't allow everybody to come and see, especially people who want to, because, there are a lot of people who don't want to. So if you get people who want to come and sit at the table and say, okay, what can I do? What part can I play in helping people to see this and understand this and help make a difference and help make a change? Because, the civil rights movement wasn't just Black people. There were a lot of white people involved in the civil rights movement. And so, it wasn't about sitting, saying, okay, well, you're not part of the community, you're not part of the culture, you can't help it. That's just not true, because we're all humans. And the human aspect of it is where we have to have the connection and where we have to be willing to have the conversation. Because I don't think that you can just say to people, okay, well, you can't be at this table, because just like telling me I can't be at the table because I'm not white. What?
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If I can come and contribute to the conversation, it shouldn't really matter what color I am. It should matter about my heart and my intentions and what you don't know what kind of a difference somebody can make who comes and sits at the table for the conversation. So we've got to allow everybody to be at the table, because it's a human problem. In all honesty, it's a human problem. It's not really a Black or white problem. It's a human problem.
Right.
Because we won't look at each other as human beings. We're looking at each other as color. Okay. And I tell people all the time, and I don't mean to minimize it, but a lot of times it's over some melanin. Okay. It's melanin. Okay. This is all this is melanin. Okay. So what is your problem? It's melanin. Okay. We need to worry about what's in here. That's what we need to talk about, is what's in here, what's in your heart, what your moral standard is. We got to get over the fact that, okay, we're just going to be like this because it's a melanin. I mean, and that's really what it is. Yeah. We're arguing and we're fighting and we're divided over melanin. When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous.
It really does. It really does. I was thinking, so we went to the Boston Science Museum last year, and they have an exhibit they have a whole space really that's all about the human body. And part of the exhibit is there's a machine that measures how much melanin is in your skin. Like you go up. Yeah, it's very cool. You go up and you put I was waiting for mine to just be like, there's none. I'm like, I was ready for like the alarm to go off or something. But it was so, I'll tell you this, it was so funny. My husband went up there. Now what we know is that his dad was French Canadian and his mom was from Germany. So he should be more white than me. Okay. But he went under there, and the thing measured him. Like, I was just very surprised how high the melanin was. It was very interesting. The kids had a good time with it. We were all like measuring, and it showed, on the board, like different cultures and, typically where you would fall in those different things. Is it accurate to that? Is it not? So it was very eye-opening and interesting and fun too, which I think it's another one of those ways to open up the conversation in a non-threatening, sort of way. Just come and measure it, see where you're at, kind of thing. But I think, as you're talking about the importance of having conversations too, I think sometimes people forget that part of having a conversation is listening and just hearing, like really hearing. Put the phone down.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started on that. I'm a baby boomer, okay? So do not get me started on the phone. I had to tell myself, listen, when we're at dinner, can you put the phone down? Yes. Oh my, these millennials. Can you put the phone down?
Put the phone down. Put the phone down. And really listen to each other. Like, just because if we say, okay, we're creating the space to have the conversations, the hard conversations. Part of conversation is listening. It doesn't mean committing to coming to the table, telling your whole story, and then getting up and leaving.
Right. And I think that I think because of the way things have happened now and the way and I'm a techie, so I love technology and all of that.
Mm,
But I think that we've gotten so used to things happening so quickly, and
mm,
that we don't want to take the time to really listen.
right.
We don't really, it's like, okay, are you finished talking? We're not really, and we're not. I find that we're not even in spaces. I don't know about Connecticut, but here in Philadelphia, it's been amazing to me how many restaurants you go in where there's loud music. So it's not like people even come in to eat and have conversations
Right.
because the music is so loud. You can't
Yes.
even talk. So everybody is sitting at the table with the phone because you can't even talk because the music is so loud. So we've
Yeah.
gotten, it's even like having conversation over a meal in a public space is like almost non-existent.
Right. Right.
We're getting away from the talking.
Right. My girlfriend and I talked about that recently, where us and both of our husbands will go out and do like a little double date thing,
Mhm.
and we love music. We'll go to hear a band, but then we realize at the end, like, we haven't even said to, we're like, hey, so what happened last week? Like, and it's so like, we even said recently, we're like, you know what we should do, we should plan where we go somewhere without a band. this, this time. I
Right.
feel like we always have to have something going on now, and that has not helped us to
No,
have the challenging conversations.
no. And we still need that connection. As
Mm,
human beings, we still need that connection of being able to talk with one another and to, you don't know, and I say this to my kids because I say, sometimes I need to talk to you on the phone. I don't want to text you. I don't want to text. I need to talk to you on the phone because when you text me and say you're fine, when I talk to you, I know if you're fine or not.
right.
Okay. I know your voice and I know if you're fine or not if I talk to you. If you text me and say you're fine, that means nothing. I need to talk to you. I need to have a conversation because I know when you really aren't fine. And that's why I think in a lot of ways we're having so many different issues and problems because we're not talking. And people are really having hard times and difficult times, but we're not talking.
Right. Right. You know who doesn't have a problem talking? Me and Karen.
That's right. That's right.
We're going to take one more quick break. And when we come back, we're going to find out where you can go see the installation and more about Dr. Karen's work. We'll be right back after this.
Sounds good.
I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart. I shall stand for love, for the world is wounded, not just my little piece of land, where I am mostly safe, where I'm mostly well, but our world, everywhere, every day. I shall stand for love, because we need more light, not more death, not more power, not more bombs. I shall stand for love, so that our children are safe, so that our friends are sheltered, so that our borders are open. I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart.
Thank you for standing for love with us here on the Breakthrough Show Network. Love that. Love that
That's
poem by
beautiful.
my dear friend Dorothy Auger. It gets me. I mean, I've been listening to that poem for years now, and I just every time takes me somewhere else. But we're back here on the Breakthrough Show. Thank you, with Karen Moore today. You mentioned that you're rebuilding in a new space virtually, so people can see the and take part in the installment. When did you say that's going to be, and how will people be able to find it?
We are shooting for April 8th, um, which is my birthday. I'm going to try to do it for my birthday.
Yes.
So we're shooting for April 8th, and people can go to the website and be able, the color beautiful dot black, color is spelled COLOUR because you are beautiful, the color beautiful dot black, and be able to get more information on the installation when it goes live.
Love it. We're very excited. I'm excited. I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm excited to go in there and explore in the new space. I think it's going to be wonderfully eye opening. And um, as the creator of the film and of the installation, what is your wish for people as they take in the experience?
My wish is for people to come to an understanding of the impact of colorism on Black women and women of color, and that there will be transformation for people who come through, that they will embrace their beauty and embrace the color of their skin, whether it's darker or lighter, or if they even have a little tiny bit of melanin, that they will, that they will understand about how beautiful we all are, and that, we talked about, you make that choice as to how you're going to show up in the world and how you're going to feel about yourself. And in order to grow, you have to feel good about yourself, and you have to know who you are, and you have to embrace who you are. So I hope that the installation will do all of that for anybody who comes through, that they will not only get education, but they will get transformation.
Mm. I love that. I love it. I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited because we finally had the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. This has been really, really such a beautiful experience for me today, Karen, to get to speak with you and hear your perspective on life and your experiences. I'm so fascinated by people. Probably why I enjoy doing doing this show so much. I'm just like, let's talk about you. Let's talk about all the things, because it's fun. Anything in particular that you would like to leave our audience with today, Karen?
I would just say be kind. Be kind to each other. We are humans, and even in this world of AI, and I love AI. I use a lot of AI. But even in this world of AI and all the other things that are going on, we need to be kind to one another. Remember that we are humans, and that everybody's life is important and valuable and worthy. And thank you, Jessica, so much. This has been wonderful. Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we'd be thrilled to have you back anytime. Would love to hear once you've had the new launch come out. Love to have you come back and share your experience with that. I think it'd be fun, and so I just again I appreciate all of the work that you're doing in the world. Your willingness to have conversations and hard conversations sometimes at that, and your willingness to allow seats at the table for everybody to listen and to share their experiences and to remember that they're beautiful. I
Yes,
just, it's so
absolutely.
good. So
Beautiful.
good. Thank you so much for being here with me today again, Karen. And I'll see you in the green room for a minute after the show. For everybody else, thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you are in the world today. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I will be back here with you at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, March the 20th, with another breakthrough story. So until next time, Karen and I want to remind you to make every day a great day for a breakthrough. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.